What's up everybody, it's Andrew Cuts here. It's been a minute, but I'm back with another video here, a self-cut tutorial. In this video, I'm going to be doing a burst fade, and I'm going to buzz the top down. So to start things off, I have my number 6 guard closed, and I'm just going to knock down all that bulk on the top. As you can see, I'm going all different directions here. I'm going front to back, I'm going to go side to side, go diagonal. The hair tends to grow in all different directions, so you just want to make sure you're hitting every direction to make sure that every hair gets cut. So as you can see, I'm kind of hitting not just the top of my head, but around the sides a tiny bit as well. I'm not going all the way down on the sides, but just kind of following the perimeter. And now I'm hitting the back, that's the crown area. And especially back there, it tends to grow in kind of like a spiral shape. So you really want to make sure you're hitting every direction back there. Now I'm setting in the foundation for the burst fade. So I have my number 2 guard open, and I'm just going to kind of set the shape in. And of course, everything you do to one side, you want to do to the other. But the shape that I'm setting in, it's kind of like a C or like a L almost. I like to bring it back a little bit behind the ear, not too drastic. I mean, you can go as subtle or as drastic as you'd like. The more drastic you go back, the further back behind the ear, the more it's going to look like a mohawk. And the closer you keep it to the ear, the more it's going to look almost like a mullet. So now continuing with that fade, I'm going to take my trimmer out now and just set in the bald guideline. Once again, I'm just mimicking the same exact shape that I did with the 2 guard. Kind of like that C, cross between like a C and an L shape. And I am using my Selfcut system here, which allows me to see 360 basically around my head. So now that I got everything set in with my trimmer, I got it on both sides and I made sure that it is even. And now I'm gonna take my shaver and I'm just gonna get everything nice and bald. You wanna notice that I'm flicking up as I get towards that line that I set in. You don't wanna go all the way up to the line, you wanna flick up right about when you get to the top of that line. And that way you're not setting any harsh guidelines. So just have a really light hand and yeah, just make sure you're stopping below that line. So now I have my 2 open. What I'm doing here is I'm just kind of debulking a little bit because I'm going to be lining up the back. So taking the 2 guard open is just going to knock down some of those longer hairs and make it a little bit easier to line up. So now I'm going to begin fading up. Here I have my lever all the way open. I have no guard on, and I'm going up about 3/4 of an inch. Another good way to measure it is if you just take the width of your finger, like your pointer finger, that's about how big the guideline should be. And once again, I'm just following that same exact shape that I set in initially. Now I have my 1.5 guard closed, and I'm just going up about that same width, following that shape and flicking out into that 2 open section that we set in initially. So now I'm opening up that 1.5 guard, and I'm just going up the slightest bit more. Once again, just flicking out into that section that we initially set in with the 2 guard. And now here I have my lever closed, I have no guard on, and I'm going to begin knocking that bottom line up. So if that section at the bottom is about the width of my pointer finger, I'm going to knock that line up about halfway up the section. And you want to notice how I'm taking my time. I'm having a very light hand, and I'm just going up the slightest bit. This clipper that I'm using is the Stylecraft Instinct, and this is one of my favorite clippers for removing the bottom line because it gets very, very close. You want to see how a lot of times I'm leading with the corner of my blade as well. Now I'm opening that lever up 2 notches, so now we're at the no guard halfway open, and we're just going to begin knocking that line out the rest of the way. So as you can see, whatever line was left in that section, I'm just flicking it out and up until the line disappears. And you want to notice how I'm not going higher than that section that is above. I'm staying in that bottom section. Once again, leading with mostly the corners. And the reason I lead with the corners is fading is really just setting in and breaking up lines. So when you lead with the corner, you're breaking up the line, allowing the fade to come together. And here I just have the lever all the way open now, just doing some detailing, trying to find any areas that still need to be broken up. At this point, you can kind of play with the lever as needed. If there's a spot that's a little bit darker and needs to be broken up and it's not coming out with the no guard open, you can close the lever to halfway or all the way closed and just use the corners to get rid of it. So now I'm taking my 4 guard here and I'm just knocking down the hairline. And the reason I do this is I'm going to be slightly lining up the front. So typically when you're lining up the front of a hairline, you want to shorten the hair up just a little bit. The long hairs tend to be harder to line up, so just by knocking down that hairline a little bit, it's going to allow you to make a cleaner line. And here I'm just lining up the fade. I'm hitting those vertical bars, and then I typically don't line my forehead up, all the way across, but I will line up the corners, kind of that almost like right angle. I think it just helps the fade pop a little bit more. And you want to notice that I'm really not digging into my hairline. I'm just kind of tapping the very edges of it, trying to get the line sharp, but keeping it as natural as possible. So now we're going to begin fading our next section out. And as you can see, I have my 0.5 guard on. I have the lever all the way open. And we're just slowly going to erase this line. And all I'm doing is I'm just flicking at that line. And as you can see, it's not taking the line out completely, but it is softening it up. So now I'm closing that 0.5 guard to about halfway, or 2 notches closed. And once again, I'm just flicking at that same line and I'm just softening it up more. And as you can see, this isn't completely taking the line out either, but it is softening it up, and we're just going to keep softening that line until it's completely gone. As you can see, it's getting there. We're almost there, but it's gonna take the lever being all the way closed for this line to be completely erased. And there you go, now I'm closing it, and I'm just doing the same thing, flicking at that line, erasing it the rest of the way. And notice how, once again, I'm leading with my corners and using the corner to put little divots in the line so that it gets broken up. I believe I may have just knocked the notch open, or the lever open a little bit, 1 or 2 notches. And at this point you can kind of do that as needed to just break that line up the rest of the way. We call that detailing. So here I'm just lining up the other side. Same thing, I'm just keeping it as natural as possible while still getting it sharp. So I'm just going back really the slightest bit. You don't want to be the person that takes your hairline back super far. It's not going to look right and it's going to grow in weird. So you just want to take your time and just tap at that line up just very naturally, and just slowly try to get it to the desired sharpness. And now I'm just going to fade my beard in. So to fade your beard in, you're basically doing the same, well, I shouldn't say the same steps, but you're doing very similar steps. I like to start with my lever closed with no guard. I'll knock at the top of the beard. I'll open the lever up halfway, go down a little bit further, open the lever up all the way, go down even further. And I'll just keep working my way down with the guards now. So here I have my number 1 guard open, kind of creating that next level in the beard, going from short to long, just going downward instead of upward. So now I just close the lever on the 1 guard, and yeah, I'm just creating that transition. And now I'm just using the 0.5 guard to kind of connect the 2 sections that I just made. The first one being with no guard, and then the second one being with the 1 guard that I just had on. I'm using this 0.5 guard to just connect those 2 sections, and as you can see, I'm just using the corners of the blade mostly to just hit any lines or dark spots that I see until I get that desired transition. Now I'm just using my trimmer to line everything up. I do have videos on my channel of how to fade your beard in and line it up more in depth, and I'm probably going to make another video breaking that down very soon. But basically what I try to do is I usually go 1 or 2 fingers width below my jawline. That's kind of the guideline I use for lining up underneath the beard. And then for the top of the beard line, I just try to leave that, once again, natural, but still getting it sharp. Trying to find that balance between not taking it too low to where it looks unnatural, but taking it down far enough to where it still leaves a nice sharp line. And there I'm just lining up the mustache, getting it off the lip the slightest bit. And then the top of the mustache, some guys like to leave this natural. I typically do leave it natural, but from time to time I'll hit any stragglers that are just growing too high on top of the mustache. But once again, just leaving it pretty natural overall. And here I'm taking my 6 guard. Oh, I'm sorry, my 5 guard, and I have the lever closed. The back of my head there, that's, I have a cowlick back there, so I'm just taking that down slightly shorter so that no hairs are sticking out or up. And now I am going to knock the back down with the 5 as well. So I want the top of my hair to be a little bit longer than the back. So yeah, I'm just running that 5 close. Once again, just doing it in different directions, making sure that every hair gets hit. Especially you can see there how my hair kind of grows in a spiral, so I want to make sure I'm cutting against the grain, following that spiral shape, and just making sure that every hair is cut evenly. It's a good thing to shower sometimes, or rinse your head before you cut your hair. That way all the hairs are, sticking up evenly and they're not laying too flat. So now I have my 4 open, and I'm just gonna fade up into that 5 that we were just running over the back. And as you can see before, I was also running that 5 up the sides of my head as well, helping that transition from the fade on the side to the top of my head. So now after using that 4 open to just flick up, I'm now closing the lever, and I'm doing the same thing, flicking up with the 4 closed. I'm just not going up quite as high as I did with the 4 open. And now same idea right here. I have my 3 open now, and I'm gonna follow that same shape that I just did with the 5, and then the 4 open and closed. I'm just flicking up with now the 3 open into the same exact section, just making sure that there's no lines that are left over between the fade part and then the top of my head. As you can see, I'm really just flicking out. Doing the same thing again with the 3 closed, just taking my time and just working any final lines out. You want to notice how I'm not digging in hard into my head. I'm just kind of having a very light hand. And here I'm just flipping the clipper around the other way, knocking down any loose hairs that I might see. And here we're going to line up the back. This is probably the most difficult part of the haircut for me, just because it's tough to see back there. I do have the Selfcut system, which is, allows me to see most of my head, but it can be tricky to see the back of your neck and the back of your head. And then it can be even trickier to maneuver your hands in the right way to deliver the line that you're looking to deliver. So before I got good at doing this, I would just have a family member or somebody just kind of touch up the line if need be, or just do it all together. And a V is really difficult to do on yourself. If you want to make it a little bit easier, you can always just round this line in the back, or just do it straight across. It all depends on what look you're going for. You just want to make sure you're getting every hair. You don't want any loose hairs on the neck. So just really take your time with this step and just go little by little, so that way you don't chip too high into into your hair. And here I'm just using the shaver. The shaver is used to take stubble all the way down to skin. So I'm just taking down that stubble that I just created with the trimmer, and I'm just taking it down the skin with the shaver here to just deliver a sharper line and better contrast. here, I'm just taking some shave gel, applying it to the beard and the hairline. And in a second, I'm gonna line everything up with the straight razor. If you're somebody who is trying to start using a straight razor, you will see some guys that will use a straight razor without any shave gel. They'll just dry shave. That can be really difficult to do if you're not experienced with using it. So I recommend, if you're looking to start using the straight razor, to get yourself some shave gel or some shaving cream and use that first until you get comfortable with the motion and just the sensitivity of how you're supposed to use the straight razor. So as you can see, I lined up the beard, and then I'm just using that straight razor to take down the bottom of the fade, like all the way down the skin, just to create a better contrast. The electric shaver does get it pretty much down the skin, but sometimes just going over with the straight razor can make the fade pop just that much more. And I'm being super light with my hand. I'm not digging into my scalp. And I'm definitely not going up and down with the razor. I'm just going forward and back very, very lightly. These things are sharp, and if you don't know how to use them, you can definitely slice yourself up pretty good. So I would use at your own caution. Especially with what I'm doing here, I'm using the razor underneath the neck, which I typically don't even do because the neck tends to be very sensitive. But if you're somebody that is comfortable with the razor, you can eventually get to a point where you can use the razor pretty much wherever. But I would certainly not recommend somebody who's new to cutting their own hair, new to a straight razor, doing what I'm doing right here. You can probably see I did, like, even though I'm being very gentle, it still caused some irritation underneath my neck, and there are some spots that I had to clean up a little bit because they were bleeding a tiny bit. So now I have some hair clay. I think the brand is Woody's. This is a pretty strong clay, but just gives my hair a nice hold, so I like to throw it in. It has a nice matte finish, just to kind of prop the hair up and give it a nice finish. Kind of gives it that like textured, messy look, even though it is a buzz. So here's the before. Definitely needed a cut so bad. And this is the 6 buzz with the burst fade. I feel like the cut came out pretty clean. Definitely a cut I'm going to be giving myself again. Let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments section. I hope you guys were able to learn something, and if you have any questions, let me know down below. And if there's another haircut that you want to see me do, also definitely let me know down in the comments. And if you're not subscribed already, hit that subscribe button. And I hope to see you guys on another video.